to hook us up on Facebook and YouTube. So he's just okay. All right. Good afternoon,
Recording
everybody.
In progress.
How are you? Thank you for joining us this afternoon in our entrepreneurial corner with NS Business School. My name is Phumzile Njogo. I am the co-founder of NSBS, and I'm with my partner Sibongile Shongwe. She will do her intro. You can see her. She just raised her finger. So that's Sibongile Shongwe, and she's driving with me today. We are joined by Shiluba Khoza. Shiluba will do her deep introduction, but Shiluba, I've met her. I was just saying to her, I think I met her it's more than 10 years ago. She's actually the first person who did a tailor-made suit for me. I still have the suit till today. It's still in that good condition. So she was laughing as I was telling her that I still have my suit and I still use it. So she's a seasoned person in the textile, clothing, fashion industry. And so we are here to really learn a lot from her as we feature different entrepreneurs in different spaces. So we want to understand a little bit more about the industry. We want to understand a little bit more about the value chain and the supply chain within the industry, opportunities that are there. The changes that we have seen in the industry. It's a very interesting industry. We have seen a lot of people uptaking it. We have seen a lot of local business people joining the industry. So I have found it very fascinating. Without further ado, let me hand it over to Shiluba. Shiluba, please tell us a little bit about yourself, just as you as a person and as an entrepreneur.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for this platform, Phumzile. And a whole 10 plus years later, we're still here. So thanks again for inviting me. Just to give you a background on who I am, I've studied fashion design at then Lysof, it's now called Stadio School of Fashion. So this is something I've always wanted to do. Ever since I was 10 years old, I knew that this is the industry I wanted to be in. I studied, I got my degree and went off to work. And I worked for a while as a merchandiser. So merchandising is more in the commercial side of fashion. We deal a lot with the retail, groups and chains and things like that. I then left my job around 2013. I felt like I knew enough, but I soon learned that I didn't. Started my business around 2013. I went into it doing mostly corporate wear and uniforms for businesses. It was very challenging, and we'll obviously, dive deep into the challenges later. I then went on to I owned a boutique and another challenge. And then I decided, okay, squash that. Let's rather supply boutiques. So I did that. And I we lost momentum a bit there. And so I went back into lecturing, which was a lot of fun. I went back to the college that I studied at. So that was a lot of fun. It was like I came full circle. And while I was, still merchandising, but also consulting for factories that were supplying chain stores. And I've now since I left that environment, and I'll tell you more about that, and then started my own studio where I now do manufacturing for small designers or smaller quantities for designers, and as well as retail. So I still do my consulting there. And that's where we are today.
That's a very interesting journey. So when you're saying you do manufacturing, what does that entail? Exactly. I'm very much interested in the manufacturing space. It will probably be another segment or a different webinar altogether, because manufacturing, I think, is an important area that we as a country need to focus in. But just for you to give us a touch on, when you're saying you manufacture for small and up and coming designers and businesses, what does that entail?
I think she froze a bit there. Shiluva, I think we lost her.
Okay, she's back.
Hi, I'm back. Sorry about that. My internet just dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened. Yeah.
Yes, you had a question.
Did you get the gist of Pumzile's question?
No. Please, can you repeat it for me?
Okay. So I just wanted you to give us a bit of an explanation so that we understand when you're saying you also do some manufacturing for the young and up and coming companies, because as I said, in manufacturing is an element I think that we need to refocus as a country to grow that space if we want to really address the unemployment and just to pick up on the economic rise. I always say that if we want to recover on our economic decline, entrepreneurship is the way to go. Yes, we can't be looking at big companies. Yes, there's employment that can be done there, but there's a bigger element that entrepreneurship can play in our space, and manufacturing specifically, I think it's an opportunity lost at the moment. So I want to understand a little bit there, when you're saying you manufacture for the small and up and coming organizations or businesses, what does that entail?
Okay, so basically, we have a lot of young designers, that are coming out, graduating every year, and don't necessarily know where to go. They've got an idea of, this is the brand that I would like to build, but I don't know where to get this made. And that's where I come in. And I would then obviously talk them through the process just to find out where they are. Some of them come in with just ideas. Others come in and they've got a whole sample and patterns and they're ready to go. So I would then obviously interject it wherever, they are, and I then manufacture. So we've got someone who cuts for us. We've got machinists who will then put the garments together, and that's how we help them out. So some of them will have like their own, social media pages and things where they advertise. But those that don't, we can also refer them to our own photographers and everyone else that can, help them out. So there is a huge shortage for small studio houses that can actually manufacture for young designers that only want like 20 garments or 10, A lot of the factories are looking at bigger quantities because it only makes financial sense for them. So, we can't blame them. But what happens to that young designer that's looking for 20 garments? Yeah.
And there's a gap for that. And it sounds like you also do a little bit of coaching and mentoring in that space. Yeah.
I do. I don't know it all, but
of course,
the little that I do know, I share. Our industry is still very small, so to speak. It was a big booming industry at some point, but with everything that's happened, with all the Chinese imports and everything, it's kind of, we've shrunk quite a bit, and we need to build. And I always say, we have to collaborate in order to get bigger. So if someone is looking for, a studio where they can manufacture, I'll happily take them in. And even if they just want, they've got, they're ready, they're factory ready, so to speak, with their patterns, their fabrics and everything. I still need to, or I'd like to, I always do have a conversation with them just to find out, like, what's your plan? What's your end game? Who are you supplying? Where can we find your product? How are you advertising, so that I also can tell people that I know where to get that product. South Africans want South African products, but we don't know where to find them. So I always want to engage. And the best way for me to learn what's happening out there is to engage and keep my ear to the ground and find out what people are doing.
And it's very true. South Africans really, we look for South African products. It's difficult to find them, contrary to popular belief that South Africans don't support South Africans, would rather have imports. It's not always true. And I'm speaking for myself particularly. Okay, maybe I might be an anomaly because Mina, I am in procurement and supply chain. So local buy is part of, like, it's ingrained in me. The first thing I would look for, where can I buy? Sometimes I even buy things that I don't need just because it's a local person. So a lot of people do look for South African brands, and it's very difficult to find them, especially the young, small, who are not widely available in the malls that we walk through or the big spaces. So there's a big gap there in building that ecosystem and building that visibility.
Absolutely.
Spongila, it looks like you might have a comment. Before you come in, I just want to indicate to our audience, guys, you can drop comments, questions onto the chat box. By towards the end, we'll see how many questions or comments we've got, and then we'll give Ushiluba maybe 5 minutes to go through those questions if there are any. But this is an interactive session. We'd like to keep it that way. We are here to all learn about the industry, so let's not lose that opportunity. Spongile, you wanted to say something?
No, I just wanted to perhaps say to Ucheluba, in terms of manufacturing, I know that for our government in the public sector, there is some support that they say they support or they fund the manufacturing sector. But I wanted to find out in particular the textile or fashion industry. How do you find that support? How is the funding? Is it easier to get the funding as well? And I think the follow-up question I will ask again at a later stage, based on the smaller upcoming fashionistas or entrepreneurs in the space.
Okay. Sure. Now you've got my blood boiling.
I know, right?
So there is, what I find in my experience, and it could be different for other people, but in my experience, I've found that our government doesn't understand our industry very well. And, I've attended like seminars and workshops and where they talk about it, but they don't really understand the nitty-gritties of it. And it's a bit frustrating sometimes, the funding part of things, I see a lot of designers that get funded, right? But you see, there's two things when it comes to our industry. We've got fashion and we've got clothing. These two are quite different, but they do meet. So you've got fashion, which is your fashion weeks, your big designers, your Makosa brands, your Tebe Magugus and those guys. And those are very key players in our industry because they are the innovators. They are the concept developers, so to speak. Those are the guys that pave the way and create the culture around what's trendy, what are the colors, what are the silhouettes and those things. And that's fantastic. But we need to then translate that into commercial fashion, which is the everyday. When you look into a Woolies or an Edgar's, what you would like to find a similar product or that exact product in the store. And there's a huge disconnect between these two. And it's Fashion Week and those, they have a role in the industry. But when you look at the clothing or the more commercialized side of things, that's where the government, I feel, doesn't understand it so well. We have a lot of factories that are shutting down because they don't have enough work, because our retailers are importing. But we have resources here, I see like, your IDCs and your DTIs, they do fund, if you go to them today and say, I want to open a clothing factory, they'll give you the funding, right? But there isn't any support that comes with that. they'll give you a consultant, maybe for 6 months to say, okay, we'll help you set up and, just give you the nitty gritties of how it works. But I find that even those guys don't understand how it works. The industry is changing so much because we're all trying to manufacture locally. It's not as easy to import from China as it used to be before. We have longer lead times now in terms of importing fabric or even the finished product. And the industry is different. So we're finding that because the government doesn't understand it as much, then it's kind of like, okay, we funded you and, all the best, good luck, and then 2 years later, the factory's shut down, because nobody knows, no one's guiding them. Even a seasoned, someone who's in the clothing industry will have those kind of challenges because the industry is so diverse. You look at things like quick response and what's this TFG, the Foschini Group, they understand it really, really well. Because what they've done is set up factories that feed directly into their stores. And not only do they use their factories that feed directly into their stores, they look at other factories locally where they then supply them with work, so that we're keeping it local. Yeah. So, and that is the quick response method, because it's before you would plan a whole season. Say now we're working on summer. And we know what the colors are, we know what fabrics are working, what the trends are, you've got those tiered dresses that are like really big. And you place an order in China, it's going to take a month to get the fabric done. It's going to take another month to get the manufacturing of that product made. And then it's going to take another month on the water for it to get here. That's 3 months of waiting, so to speak. By the time that product lands here, it's not as trendy anymore. Or it's not, you've kind of missed the boat, you've missed out on sales. So what TFG and the likes that understand quick response will plan the season up front and get their fabrics on the floor. And then we're just knocking up these styles into different styles that, the market will like. And we can respond a lot quicker that way. So for example, let's say cotton lycra is a big, fabric for the season. The color is pink and everybody likes pink shorts. So we'll bring in the pink fabric and then we'll knock up maybe about 5 or 6 different types of pink shorts, test the market, put those out into the shops, and we'll see which one picks up. So maybe 3 out of the 6 will do really well. Then it's easy for us we've got the fabric on the floor. It's easy for us to then manufacture the bulk, get it in a lot faster. So these are the kind of things that are innovative in that commercial space. But what also I've realized is that we face the challenge of not having the right equipment as well. So TFG is really good at investing in upskilling. Sorry.
We've muted him.
Yeah, no, I've muted him. He just joined. Yeah.
Okay. So they're quite good in terms of understanding that we need to upskill our factories. So whether it be upskilling the machinists themselves or even just investing in equipment that can give us efficiencies. The government is also not doing enough of that. I mean, it breaks my heart that I have to import a button from China. A simple button. Yes, a button, a trim, basic. These come from China. Why aren't we investing in the equipment that makes the buttons so that we can create jobs that way? It's small things that I feel like we're not moving fast enough in that direction, because then we can do things a lot quicker. Every time I go to a client and I pitch, they all say to me, we want to invest, we want to buy local, but we have issues with quality. It's always a quality issue and it's a price point issue. Our prices are very high and our quality is not great. Then it's easier to just buy from China because they know they'll get the quality, they'll get the right price. Exactly. They'll wait. They don't mind the wait. It's just about planning. But, but then what happens to our factories then?
So are you saying there is funding that is there, but it is not channeled properly?
It's misdirected.
It's misdirected. And also once the money is put out there, there's no follow through to audit what impact has it made in the bigger ecosystem?
Yeah.
So there are no spaces where, but I think generally our government is not good in just finding out. Here's the case. What has happened? Why did it happen this way? Where were the failures? Why did we fail? How do we then improve? Because it's actually that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at some of our unions are still buying T-shirts from China. We should be asking ourselves, why can't we give our people a basic T-shirt? A basic T-shirt is so expensive to make that it's cheaper to bring it in from China. How?
Something is wrong.
We wear T-shirts all the time. I mean, in any business, there's promo T-shirts. There's, a T-shirt is like buying bread. How can we not manufacture this product locally? Yes, we can. We've got factories that can do it at reasonable prices, but it's like few and far between. A lot of the guys bring in T-shirts from China. Our unions are buying T-shirts from China. How? They print them locally, great, but you're buying the finished product from China. And we've got factories that can do that.
Wow.
You see, perhaps maybe if we look at maybe from a different angle, because we know there's the funding.
Yeah.
There's a lot, IDC, the Development Bank, then there's your Black industrialists, so they fund us. But I don't know what's your view on this one, because what I'm seeing as I follow, because this is a subject that's very close to my heart. So if you look at what happens, like you are saying, you will get the funding, right? And okay, you will have your business plans. You'll say, I will manufacture, I'll be able to, do some manufacturing of some clothes and stuff. But I see that we lack because we do not look at which is part of why NS Business School is actually looking at this space together with supply chain, because you can't actually put the two, separate. Because even I think in your space, in terms of the processes of the fashion industry, you do have supply chain because it's very important. So, and you've touched on it. So if you look at it, at the end of the day, I may have the funding, I may be able to manufacture what I need to manufacture, but if I don't have the uptake, then I end up with, material or fashion or whatever items I may have, but I don't have anybody to buy. Because this is where I believe that we need the private sector, because from you, Shilva, and maybe others, in any other space in that you may have the fund, you may have been able to produce and manufacture, but who are you selling to? You are talking about quality and stuff, but is the private sector willing then to buy from us? Which I think as government alone, I don't think government will be able to do that. And also there's this mindset change that we have to do, which I don't think we're doing well. So I'm just asking in terms of with having that funding or others having funding, is an uptake not part of the issues that is causing the problem?
Absolutely. Definitely, I can say that is an element to it. There is that as well. But I've knocked on doors. I guess I'm not scared to go in there and say, hey, this is me. This is the product that I'm making. Are you interested? And like I said, a lot of these guys want to buy local. EdCon had an amazing program as well, where they would fund a factory. If they've given you an order, they will give you at least 50% upfront to service the order. There are programs within the retailers that they're quite interested. So they will obviously talk to you. But where you get stuck as a factory is now on the actual process of getting that garment or that order out of the factory. You've got wages to pay every week. You've got the unions knocking on your door and you know what? Unpopular opinion, I think they are knocking on the wrong doors. They're not necessarily supporting the factories. They are very quick to come and shut you down. It's almost like it's their job to come and shut down a factory. And I get so upset because I think we're trying to build. We've got an order we need to service. They will come in and tell the shop steward, oh yeah, but you're working too much overtime. Therefore, you should be getting paid this much. And I'm not saying people shouldn't get a minimum wage, but like, can we get the order out?
Yeah.
More sustainable, you know. I've had my conversations with those guys, and let's just.
In the meantime, they are importing from China, where there's child labor and all sorts of despicable things there.
Exactly.
And that's what adds to the cost of our garment locally. That's why we go to China.
Exactly.
Where labor is cheap.
Yeah. And sometimes you ask yourself, can we really compete with that?
No.
We can't, like, really.
At the end of it all, can we compete with that if we want to do ethical manufacturing and production?
We can't really, sorry, yes?
No, that's fine. I think there are many variables, but maybe from a fashion space, you will be able to provide the best answer. But I was just saying there are quite a lot of variables that we can compete with China. Look at the population of China. You look at us and look at the number of people who want to work. They don't care about human
labor
rights
issues
or whatever.
No.
While here you cannot, and you have a minimum level. That side, you either take it or leave it, and that is why we have those. But maybe from a fashion space and textile, you are better placed to provide that answer.
Yeah, so it's exactly that. You've hit the nail on its head. You know, we really going about it the long way. And like I said, the unions are quick to come into a factory and shut it down. Why aren't they going to the retailers and saying, use that factory? It's same energy, misdirected. And like I said before, a lot of the chain stores want to support local. They've got a lot of, the word escapes me now, but where, they will find a small factory, take them through and say, okay, we'll give you like one order to start and then see how it goes. So they're happy to place their orders locally, but the support from the government is not there. It's not necessarily there in terms of importing fabric, because we have to import fabric. We no longer have fabric mills. I mean, when I was, my first job, I remember my boss said to me, a couple of years ago, that was like, okay, I'm about to reveal my age. My first job was like, I think it was like 2006, 7, somewhere there. And he said to me, a few years ago, we had about 3,000 fabric mills locally that were making fabric. We're down to just under 50 today.
Wow.
That's sad, so we're not getting anywhere. So now I have to import fabric from China because I'm not going to get the fashion fabric locally. Most of the local mills are making fabrics that we use every day, like t-shirting, polycotton, because those are guaranteed, sales. So if I'm looking for a fashion fabric, I have to import it from China. That means the lead time, now I'm waiting. So I've invested that money in there. It's locked in that fabric until that fabric lands and I can turn it into a garment and sell it, and only then get payment after, 30 days, 60 days. What happens to my cash flow in that time?
Yeah. That's why I'm saying, is it really, we are clearly just going about it the wrong way, because we cannot compete. We cannot compete. There's a point where someone somewhere has to be bold enough to say, let us just recreate standards. Let's just recreate something different and something new, because we will never be able to compete with China. As many variables as we can count, they eventually boil down to the cost. They will always beat us on cost.
Always.
They will always beat us on costs. So on that element, Shiluwa, you've indicated Uguti ama lead times now when we are importing are no longer as swift and quick. Is it something that's coming up now because of COVID, or is it now a general trend?
I think COVID had a lot to do with it. COVID had a lot to do with the lead times, but you see, like I mentioned earlier, we have the quick response method, which means, it's not like before. Before you would wait maybe even a year or two before that trend that we saw in the US, before it becomes popular here in South Africa. Now we're all on real time with everyone, The only reason why the US or UK or wherever the big, global trendsetters the only reason why we're a season behind is simply because they're in summer and now we're going into winter. But the minute we go into summer, we're going to be wearing exactly what they're wearing now. So we're definitely on par. And that means that we are looking for products that we are seeing on your Instagram, on your music videos, on all of that. So that means we, as the local manufacturers, need to provide that product the minute summer hits. We cannot wait a whole season before we can supply it. So we have to then resort to quick response. And quick response cannot work without a solid manufacturing, foundation locally. If we don't have factories that can turn styles around quickly, then we've lost the whole season. If we don't have studio houses that can create, because another thing that the government doesn't understand, when you're running a factory, you don't necessarily have time to focus, to come up with trends and do all the trend forecasting. You need to manufacture. Your main focus is getting that product out as quickly as you can. It's all about efficiencies. And then you've got the likes of myself, who are the designers, the merchandisers, trend forecasters, and all of that. We're able to say, okay, summer is looking like this. Therefore, let's come up with a couple of samples and sell to our retailers. Go back then to the factory and say, these are the trends, guys. Can you do it? We cost with the factories. They give us prices, and then we keep it moving. So these two are very intertwined, and we're finding that the government doesn't look at studios as a real business, because it's like, you're just a designer. But I'm actually feeding that factory so that they don't close. So I need, going back to the quick response, the studio houses or the designers are the ones that can able to, they can forecast the next season to say, these are the sales, these are the styles that we know are definitely going to work for the season. These are the fabrics. Let's bring it here and manufacture quickly, so that we don't lose out on sales. And I think that's just the one way of feeding our industry. But we need the support from our government to say, okay, if you're going to bring in so much fabric, how can we do that faster? Or can we recreate our mills? What sort of equipment do our mills need in order to make a chiffon, for example, or whatever trendy fabric we have that's coming in? Can we not rather do that locally? Okay. We have I remember Edcon had started like a cotton cluster where they spoke to farmers, and they were buying cotton directly from them and then taking it to the mill, and those things were happening, but it's like 1% drop in the ocean.
Small. Okay, we have a comment, and over to you, Spongela.
We have a question from YouTube which says, how do we then compete with China, for instance, to make sure that we can localize the supply chain and still maintain the quality and bring the cost down? That's from Lingo Masemula from YouTube. I know that we've answered it, but perhaps maybe Shiluva, you can just briefly touch on it there.
No, absolutely. One of the challenges that we're finding with our local mills is that, they're there, they exist, they can give us beautiful fabrics, but the price is too high. Now I can't meet the price for my customer. And whenever I ask, like, guys, you can't be charging me that much for fabric, it's always the price of yarn has gone up. And it's not only the price of yarn, it's also the import duties that we're facing as well. So can the government then help us there? How do we then control? Is there some, I know that they give us, rebates and tax refunds when we import certain fabrics or certain yarns, but again, it's not enough. And we've got local farmers that can farm cotton. We've got local mills that can make. So I think we need to look at, those cost centers and actually see how can we cut down on certain things. The government really needs to look at what are we paying taxes for exactly, and how can we maybe eliminate some of those things so that we can get into price. It's always that add-on, like you buy cotton and then you got to add on for this and this and that. And then you take it to the mill and then they can do it, but they got to add on for this. And by the time I get the finished product, it's so expensive. China doesn't have that. Yeah. China doesn't have that red tape. We do.
Yeah.
And
So-
then there's
What's the comment from I think we have a
Erica.
Zoom comment, yeah?
Yeah, we do have a question from Erica de Greef. She says her question relates to the broader idea of entrepreneurship. Ne? She says the point made about finding differentiation in fashion is maybe a way to think about creating fashion entrepreneurial opportunities over the next decade.
To,
So sort
to
of a
break it
question,
down into
but
those
a-
smaller elements. I think you've already touched on it somehow, Shilubwa Guti.
Yeah.
The government does not recognize these smaller spaces, these smaller areas where work is being done, like people like yourselves, for example.
Yeah. Hi, Erica. Erica was my lecturer. So,
Oh, yeah.
no, absolutely. I think, and I've said this to you before, Kumzile, we don't collaborate enough. Our industry is still very small. I find that designers work in silos. I find that everyone is very, this is my, collection for summer, and it's great, and have that, own it, it's yours. But then who's doing your photography? Who's doing your makeup for your photo shoot? I've done photo shoots where I haven't had a cent, and all I have is this range that I want to showcase, and I'll call a friend, please come model for me. I'll give you this dress. Okay, cool. And then I've got the photographer, please come do the photo shoot for me. And then, okay, you can then take those images and advertise on your social media, your platforms. We collaborate like that. It's a joint effort. And I think that is one way of increasing, that entrepreneurship space that Eric is talking about. You look at your SA Fashion Week, it's all good and well. You showcase and it's beautiful, but then what happens after that? I'm not seeing a follow through, and I've asked, I've never done Fashion Week because I always look at it, I'm like, but then what's the value add? Because I feel like after I've showcased at Fashion Week, I would like to see my product at an Edgar's, at a Woolies. It's happening. It is happening. I'm not saying it's not happening at all, but it's like 1% of the whole thing. A lot of designers, when I ask them, what are you getting out of Fashion Week? And they say, well, at least I've got some marketing material. Come on, it's not enough.
It's not.
Why aren't we following that through? So I think we as young designers need to collaborate more, and not only with ourselves, but with all the add-ons of running a fashion brand. Every fashion brand needs a stylist. We need a model. We need you need a photographer. You need a studio space. There's so much that comes with putting a whole production together. And we're not doing enough of that. We need people that can manage social media pages. I don't have time to sit there and post every single day, I need to go and sell. I don't have time to sew. I need a machinist who can sew for me. I don't have time to do patterns, but what are we doing so that I might not have the funds to pull all of it off, but let's have conversations and see how we can help each other out.
But collaboration. Yeah. And I think that theme is just true in all industries, in all sectors where small businesses are. And there's still this, I'm afraid I'm holding. I was even saying a simple example like sharing an administrator, for example. If you are an SME, to have an administrator can be expensive.
Yes.
But if we share that administrator amongst 3 or 5 people, the cost goes down. Exactly. And then my back office is managed so that I can focus on the real business issues. It's a simple idea like that. Because, when administrative work can get you so bogged down, you end up losing focus of, I actually need to sit and design. I actually need to sit and think and research what is going on in the market, what are the latest trends, and that's where I need to be focusing on. But I need to be running around getting invoices done, collecting debt, phoning people to pay me. I didn't post anything on my social media today. Copyright and all of that can be outsourced. And we can be 4 or 5 of us using this administrator and our cost goes down. In fact, that is the principle that even the very China that we are complaining about, they do that. They collaborate. You know what I mean? If more big brands, even about Nike and them, are going into China, and these Chinese factories come together to say, we will do this, you will do that, and here's the end product.
Yeah.
So collaboration is something that I think small businesses have to really, really think about.
Yeah.
It is something that we actually need if we want to grow. Small enterprises. Yes, Bongile?
Yeah, but for me, what is surprising, or maybe what is of interest, is that this industry, it's widely accepted. It's one of the most significant sectors, in the whole world. So, and if you look at the human being or the people, we wear clothes, and maybe we take it for granted in terms of, you just think this is made in one factory, everything is made and then it's sold, but we do not understand that value chain of what it means, because it's one of the sectors, I think, that if we really look after it, it can really contribute to our economy and stimulate the economy, and get as you're saying, in terms of the factories or plants that we used to have, the number of, it's shocking that it has gone down from 55,000 to under 55.
3,000 goes to 50. Yeah,
and then if we can try and conceptualize how many people were employed in there to that less than 50 or 55, we can see how important it is. But what needs to be done? For example, what can we do? Because really, we buy clothes. If we look at the retailers, we buy clothes almost every month. Every household does buy clothes, maybe those that can afford. Every month, clothes are bought. But what can we do? What is required? If we look at it, yes, I know there's us, but I'm sure there are other countries or developing countries in similar situations like us. Is this situation the same as what we see here in South Africa?
So one thing that I always do, my business partner and I, it's a thing. We do it all the time. Walk into an Edgar's or a Woolies or any chain store that you buy clothing from. Just look at the Wash K label. If it says made in South Africa, you've already supported a factory. You've supported a local business. So I think a lot of people always think, and the only way to buy local is I have to look for my Xhosa jersey, and it's going to cost you an arm and a leg and maybe even a thigh. It's like, I have to look for a David Lales. Go into the shops, go to Foschini. Most of their stuff is made locally. Buy that stuff there. It's at an affordable price, and you're keeping those factories alive just by doing that. Another concept that I'm not sure why it's not happening. You've got stores like your H&Ms and your Zaras that come in here, and they import all of their stuff. Why is the government not pushing them to at least manufacture some of their products locally to keep our doors open? Simple things like basics that we buy every day, like a t-shirt, for example. Let's at least give us 20% of that business so that we're manufacturing it here. Even our designers, I forget the name. It's like almost like your aspirational products. Say, for example, like a Dior, you've got a beautiful Dior dress that you can find at their store that's like 50,000 Rand or whatnot. But I would happily buy a t-shirt that just says Dior, because I aspire to wear that brand. So can local designers start looking into something like that? Tsepo Jeans did that very well. His t-shirts are available at Woolies. That's beautiful. Maybe you can't afford a pair of Tsepo Jeans, but you know what? I can get that t-shirt. It's like $250. That's okay. I'll buy that. That in itself. So let's look at, as designers as well. And I find a lot of designers want to only play in the high-end field, which is, I understand why they do that, because making anything locally is expensive. But let's look at, there are those designers that have the capabilities to supply chain stores and give us those kind of products that we can buy that can at least keep their doors open, as well. So I think there's just a lot of conversations that we need to have around the industry and how best we can infiltrate the commercial market more, because that's where we're using it. On the high end side, on the fashion side, I think we're doing great. We've got amazing designers really doing amazing things in the world space, but we need that trickle down so that it's more commercialized, because that is what the masses can afford. So let's have these conversations.
So if you're looking at chain stores like Bo Ackermans and Pep, I mean those stores, they sell at reasonable prices, and I've seen the quality is not bad at all. I mean, gone are those days where people used to say, izinto zase Pep, but if you go to Pep these nowadays, you find good quality stuff. Are those guys importing as well, or are they also localizing?
It's both. They import and they also manufacture locally. There's certain items that are easier to just import, especially if you look at winter garments like your puffy jackets, your knitwear, all those very heavy, sort of winter garments. It is cheaper to import, because making that locally will cost a lot of money, because we don't have the equipment. We don't have the equipment. But luckily for us, our summer season is a lot longer than our winter. Winter is really 3 months. And then the rest of the year is summer. So we do find, and you see with your Peps and Ackermans, those discount sort of fashion, retailers, they've got the numbers. They've got the numbers. So they can, they can, as a factory, you can get into an agreement where you are at least making money. You're making 10,000 t-shirts for 2 months. Every month they want 5,000. You can work it out, because obviously the more you buy or the more you manufacture, the lower the price goes, because you're now getting into, when it comes to manufacturing on the ground, the reason why it's cheaper to buy in bulk is because as you're manufacturing, you become more efficient. So you can take out the product a lot faster. So that's how you start saving your money. And
the volumes,
with the volume. So those guys are buying locally, and it is beautiful to see. We're getting a lot more of that, but there are still some products that unfortunately we have to import simply because we don't have the equipment.
Sure. Okay, Shiluva, there's a compliment for you here, as well as a question from Hope Badana from YouTube. So he says, you look amazing. Hi, Shiluva, you look amazing. Do you think there's a future in the clothing industry outside of fashion in SA?
Definitely. There definitely is a future. We have so many designers. We have so many young kids that want to create brands and, do all these amazing things. Oh, also, thank you, Hope, that want to do all these amazing things. And it's almost like they become despondent, because what do you do once you've created this beautiful sample?
Yeah.
I would really encourage our government to really look more into studio houses, because what studio houses do is they enable us to take these products. I mean, it's easy for me. Say I have like a team of 5 young designers, and I say to them, guys, this is the color for the season. This is the fabric for the season. These are the kind of silhouettes. Go and design something that I can take to Foschini tomorrow and present. That's how you can marry the fashion and the manufacturing side of things. And if we can do more of that, I think we have a future, because then the factories have got work. Then retailers are saying, oh, wait, we can actually make this product here locally. Let's place the order with these guys, as opposed to buying it from China. Then we're bringing it back home, And then on the other side, hopefully the government wakes up and realizes, what, we've actually got so many requests for these type of machines that can increase, efficiencies. Let's look into improving just efficiencies on the factory floor. Let's look into more training on clothing production, specifically, not necessarily fashion, just clothing production. We've got so much opportunity in this country. We've got so many skilled machinists, but the sad part about that is that most of them are from the older generation. Our younger guys don't want to necessarily be in a factory, because
yes,
it's not fun. It's not sexy. No one's making it look cool. you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone is like, oh, I want a brand, and we'll have 50 million brands, but who's going to actually make the clothes?
It's our mothers that used to you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was part of the old, you know, apartheid government, but manufacturing was still big then. So every second household who's just they can do anything, cut a pattern without even looking, and they can just put together a garment just like that. That skill is, you are right, I don't see that with the young guys that are coming up.
It's lost.
So you mentioned something when we started. One of the challenges that have been mentioned as well is the quality of the output, right? The quality of the products. So that is something that we can already engage, because I'm always, when we are having such challenges, the last people I look to address issues in any sector or industry is government, because there it's like, okay, those conversations are very important. They need to be held, but we are where we are because of those inefficiencies that side. So I always like to say, what can we do ourselves as an industry, as a sector? And one of it that I'm already thinking is, how do we make sure that when we are given the opportunity or the space or the time to produce anything, we make sure that it comes out at very top quality? Those are things that we can already address. And maybe you can also maybe, you know, indicate one or two more, because I always say, look inside the house first. Yes, our government is failing us, has failed us, and they will continue to do so in the long run, because we are where we are here. Because why did we even get here? Some of these things don't even make sense. But as a start, what are those things that we can do ourselves in the sector, in the industry, to make sure that we are at high quality? You know, we have that excellence within ourselves.
I would say, you know, let's look at the people who have the skill and learn as much as we can from them. A lot of these guys, they're tired, they want to shut down factories, they've had enough, they've seen better days, now things have changed, they're just like, you know what, I don't want this factory anymore, I'm out. And we're not doing enough as young people, not so young anymore, but as the youth, we're not doing enough to shadow. Let's go and find out how these guys are putting, you know, garments together. How are they running factories? You know, maybe you don't have money to go and study clothing production at UJ or wherever it is, but trust me, there is a factory that's looking for someone to just shadow. How does it work? Okay, so once the fabric is here, this is how you cut. Okay, a general interest in the industry goes a long way. And again, it goes back to collaboration. What can we do to make sure that our factories stay open, you know? And factories also look into things like, you know, I know a lot of them will say, I'm not interested. You're coming here with 50 units. It's really not worth my while. And I get it. Like I said, you got to pay wages at the end of the week, you know? But how about you just put one line in your factory and you say, this is for development. This is for my young designers, and I can just run those quick orders through there. Let's bring these guys that want brands, let's bring them back onto the manufacturing floor. And it's a general interest. This is something the government cannot do for us. We have to be interested. We have to be keen to learn, because the sad thing is that these guys they're going. It's very rare that you'll find a young production manager. And I don't trust factories that have a young production manager anyway, because I'm like, how much do you really know? And that's where we're losing the quality as well, because we get young people who come in, they don't know, they think, okay, 1 year is enough to shadow a production manager, and then I'll come in there and I know what to do. These things take time. Every single garment has its own little, you know, things that need special care, and that comes with experience. So if you are interested in clothing, go to a factory and say to the guy, please, can I just come? I'll sweep the floor. Whatever. Can I just learn how to? But
it's a bit of a challenge that our youngsters are not. When you tell them, just go and volunteer, The amount of knowledge you're gonna come out there with, you can't buy them. Now these days, you want to exploit them, you want them to suffer, and it's it's sad. I mean, I will say, yes, someone might say, I don't have money to go to college and things like that. I'm still saying, Abu Mama Betu and our grandmothers, they can do these things with their eyes closed, and they didn't go to college. They did not go and study any of these things.
It's a general interest. If you're interested in it, everyone comes. I mean, I consult, like I say, I've got people come in and say, oh, I want a clothing brand, and I said to this guy, so what's your thing? What do you want to do? What's your concept? What's it about? Oh, it's clothing and wine. Okay. What about the clothing and the wine? No, I want to supply Mr. Price. But okay, how? Like, let's unpack it. Go to a factory, spend a year there. Even if you're there once a week, just go. You're interested. It's an industry that you wanna, apply yourself in. So go there and learn. Just find out what is the procedure? What does it mean to cut? How are you cutting? Because cutting is very specialized as well. You don't know what you're doing. And then after cutting, what happens? And then, then it's on the machine. How long does it take? Find out how that works. Just get involved. I think that's the only way, honestly. And no one can give you that. It's either
no one can give you that.
Yeah.
So we seem to have a few comments here. So Lee probably to us, maybe in response when we were talking about how do we get our probably clothes out there or items. So he or she says there can be store displays that state local products. I think you had said that we need to look at the garments, for example, to see where the wash instructions to see whether it's here. So I think she was responding before you posted that. And we also have a comment from Pangi. Just a second here. Here's the comment. Okay. Pangi says, how do you deal with people interested in fashion who cannot afford to go to college, who hold natural talents in fashion and would be an occasional workshop happens to compress a curriculum, something like a master class. He says, for those who cannot afford to go to college, would there be a master class or workshop? I think this you are talking to Pumzile here at NS, because those are the opportunities she really looks for. And and Lee also continues to say, but the gurus are also not sharing info as willingly as that. I think that's what you and Pumzile spoke about in terms of that collaboration or so. But yeah, she's mentioning that. And we also have, I think you'll just comment on these points as we go along. So we also have another one from Lingo who says, can the YDE, the Young Designers Emporium strategy, be used to help the designers to penetrate the prime retail market space, like get them together in one place and retail their products? That's Mlingo. And then Upinki from Swaziland says, thank you, ladies. This is a very informative, even for her. She says, even for me in Swaziland. So those are the comments that we have at the moment.
Okay.
Let's see if you will remember all of them.
I'll do my best.
So there's one for masterclass. Those who are unable to go to college, can there be that one? And then there's one that also says, I think it's Lee, who says, the gurus they don't want to willingly share their information. Obviously, there are those risks, and there's one with the YDE strategy from Lingo. So I think those are the 3 ones.
All right. I'll start with the masterclass. Because I'm me, I always I keep my ear on the ground. There's a lot of social media pages, specifically on Facebook, that I follow. I think it's called CMT Clothing something. I'll send you guys the link so that you can also share. I see a lot of people advertising that they are doing classes. If you want to learn how to sew, it's like a 6-week course, come. And some of these aren't accredited, but I don't think you're looking for that. You just want to learn how to sew, how to make your own clothes, so there are a lot of, there are a lot of machinists who are looking into that. And I would like to also appeal to machinists who have the skill, who have lost their jobs because COVID really, to start teaching people and making money that way. I know that people are willing to pay for such classes, even if it's a small fee. There are those opportunities available. So another thing is, let's look at the seaters. I think that's also a conversation we need to have with them and see what can we do on like a basic level, just to get people involved, people learning how to sew. How do you then just a basic shirt or a basic skirt or something like that? So I would say, I think that was Pangi who mentioned it. I would say join those kind of groups. There are people giving those type of classes every day, I said. So it is available. In terms of the YDE space, that is something that I always, it's YDE. It's one of those sad case studies where a lot of their designers are local, but they've now streamlined their manufacturing to be now everything comes from China now. It's quite sad. So I would say, again, it goes back to people who want to get into the fashion space, but don't necessarily have the pattern making or design skills or whatever, didn't go to school for it. Not everyone can be a designer. Not everyone can have a brand, it's just like in the music industry. Not everyone can be Ariana, for example, but she's got a team that works with her. She's got a stylist, she's got a producer, she's got a manager, so plug yourself in there. And I find a lot of people who love fashion then always feel, I want to start my own brand. Why don't you open a store and bring other designers together like a YDE and then have those guys? You already are an influential person in that people are looking up to you because you are that fashionista, so to speak. So bring in brands that you like and then showcase that, we have a lot of people doing pop-ups and things like that. Let's have more of those, let's have more. There's one that I also am part of, Studio Fashion House. It's different people coming together and selling products. And it's no one is owning that space per se. So, you don't necessarily have to start your own brand. See who you can collaborate with. If you're an Instagram influencer, every week advertise a new brand, advertise a new designer who's already, doing that. And then in terms of sharing information, it's sad. People don't like to share information. I can talk, like I said to you earlier, an hour is not enough. I can go on and on and on. I love to share information because our industry really needs to open up. We've got things like fashion councils. I was part of a fashion council. I can't even tell you what we did. There's a lot of meetings and it went nowhere. And those are the things that really frustrate me, because we talk and there's lunch and then no follow through. And, it frustrates me. So maybe this is a project for someone who creates websites. Let's have a website where there is information available. If I'm looking for a small factory that can do 20 units, okay, this is the list. Call these guys. I need a school. I need to do a masterclass. Okay, these are the schools that offer it or whatever. Let's open it up that way. I think if you have information, I mean, this is such an amazing platform in itself. The fact that we're having this conversation today, this is great because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there thinking, wow, I actually didn't know half of this stuff. And now I know where to go, So our industry is very scattered and there's just you really have to hunt for information. And if you're not doing it every day, it'll pass you very easily. So I think those who've got the skill, those who've got the experience, let's share information as much as we can. If you know something, you know someone, just put it out there, just so that we can create a buzz.
So on that note, Ulunga is asking or talking about websites. He's saying, is a website crucial for a designer to start selling their clothing, or is a mortar brick needed as well? So that's
No. We've changed. Like, geez, COVID showed us that we can do amazing things remotely. So No, you can. I mean, people are selling on WhatsApp. People are selling on Instagram. People are selling on Facebook. They've made it so easy to sell online. I think it's really just a matter of putting your product out there with whatever platform you have. Social media is almost free. I mean, yes, you got to pay for an ad. It's like maybe 200 Rand and you get like 10 days, but it's 200 Rand well spent because now you've got 2,000 new followers or whatever it is. So, use those platforms that you have and just get your product out there. And you'll see Facebook has those platforms where you can, pay for a product. There's Marketplace, there's Instagram Shop. I forgot what it's called. There's, like I say, I've bought products on WhatsApp. People are posting on their statuses daily. It's like, sure, it's a whole shop. So no, you don't have to have a brick and mortar at all.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
Umlingo, maybe on that note as well, looking at the time, saying, I know we started a bit late, so she says, a very, very informative session, Shiluva. You are truly passionate about your hustle. That's Mlingo. Maybe over to you, Pumzile.
Yeah, no, thank you. Her energy, it's on another level when it comes to the industry that Shiluva is in, and I think that's why I thought she's like one of the best candidates that we should invite in this industry. She has the energy. She's very passionate about the space. And I'm so glad that you have outlined the entire ecosystem, so we'll call it, or the entire supply chain, because supply chain really just talks to how we acquire, manufacture the product until we get it to the end, who's the end user. And you have outlined the many areas as we move throughout the chain, which here are the opportunities that people can start looking into. These are the specific areas that we can start looking into. And I think those are some of the things that we need to start looking at and exploiting as a people while we're waiting for government to come back, if they do come back. But I think there's areas where we can start leveraging throughout the supply chain. And I know, we're having these conversations because whenever you're talking supply chain, people just think tenders. Where's the government tender? And I'm saying supply chain is everywhere. And you need to make sure that you, in the space that you are in, go into the value chain or into the supply chain and see where are the opportunities. We start identifying those opportunities, and there's a small area that you can do, and then you can start making some money out of them. And now that COVID has made the world very small. And we have seen you've also indicated good. We are now on the same seasons globally. It's no longer we've seen this thing 3 years ago. Can you figure like South Africa? Even when we're on TV shows, we used to watch episodes that are 3 years old. Now we are live. We are on par with the rest of the world. Which is a good thing, because then we are in touch with our neighboring countries. We want to know, what is Zimbabwe looking for? Are there many T-shirts that they're looking for? Let's collab, let's club together. Hey, Shiluva, can you do 10? Mangman, can you do 15? Mangman, can you? Because they are looking for 100. And then transportation to Zimbabwe, it's like going to town now. Things like that. So there are things that we really, really can start doing in making money, improving on employing different people and improving on our unemployment rate. And that's really the crux of why we're having these conversations as NSBS, to say, I will repeat, there is nothing. Government has a big role to play. A very big role to play in making sure that the unemployment rate is addressed in this country. But as a people, we also need to understand there's a lot more that we can do for ourselves while we're waiting for the state to come to the party. And I think on that note, I'm going to ask you, Shiluva, as a business person who's been in the space, maybe share some closing remarks with us, and maybe some of the books that you can maybe recommend to the guys that are interested in reading, because really you can't, information is there. You need to go and find that information. Unlike in the olden days where we used to say information is not available, that's no longer the issue. Now, in fact, our biggest challenge is to decipher, because there's so much information there. Our biggest challenge is to find information that is relevant to what you want to do and leverage on that information. So as closing remarks, or maybe before we get to your closing remarks and the books, I think there's 2 more comments, Bongile.
Yes. Well, you may have seen me laughing, but Uli says, fashion has been in Shiluva's blood since she was 7 years old. And
you can tell. You can
not
tell.
lying.
and Umatidiso, maybe as Shiluva is closing out, Umatidiso says, what are the challenges you face in this industry? I know maybe she got cut off, she joined late. You have touched on maybe for her benefit as you close, you can touch on that to answer her as well.
Okay. All right. Sure. I'll start with one of the books that I read. It's called Inspired by Nick Benadel, a local book, South African book, and it features a lot of entrepreneurs and their journeys. I went through that book so fast because I was just so intrigued with the stories that I was reading about. And what I took from that book was that everyone has their own journey. I can't look at a Kensan Mangai and feel like, oh, I can follow her steps and I'll get it, I'll become a stone cherry tomorrow. No, it's not going to work like that. Your journey is different. And the one common denominator with all those entrepreneurs was that you got to just follow your passion, follow just go with it. Go where it takes you and be interested so much that you are there. When they say there's a fashion show here, you're there. There's a pop-up here, there's a factory opening, go, So go follow the path. And there's going to be times where it's dark. And that's what your passion is, what will pull you through. I've been here for a very long time and it hasn't been an easy road at all. But I can tell you now that it's all about, it's the passion that keeps me going. It's every time I'm down and out, because of the love I have for this industry, I'll always find a loophole somewhere. I'll find a gap somewhere that there's an opportunity and I'll go. At times people come to me and say, hey, look, I saw you did this. I'm doing this. Can we jump on board? And here's an opportunity. Yes, go with it. It might not work out the way you want, but at least you tried, and one thing that I took from that book was fail fast. Try something quickly. Yeah. Try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Move on. Yeah. Don't dwell on, oh, I should have done it. Try it. Just try. That's the one book. The other book would be Mind Power by John Keogh. I think everyone's read that book. It helps me every day. I use it till this day. You've got to really believe in what you're doing, manifest, think about it, dream it every single day, and you will find yourself just on that path. I've seen with myself, I found myself in spaces where I never thought I would be. And then I step back and I turn around, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm actually here. I dreamt about this years ago and here I am, So hang on to it. Hang on to that dream. Hang on to what it is that you want. Those are the 2 that really stand out for me. Yeah. I haven't read that much, but I'll tell you now, my favorite book of all time is just the human beings around me. Yeah. I will learn and listen to anyone that has any piece of information. I love information. I'm an information junkie. I see an entrepreneur that's doing well or just in the space, and I will talk to people and just find out, what do you do? How are you doing it? And that's how I learn. And even with my business partners today, that's how we learn, I don't know everything. Like I say, I will pick up the phone and say, hey, what do you think about this? Okay. And then maybe she's learned something that I didn't know. And then, hey, today I'm a bit wiser. So talk to people, find out, get involved, read, get into pages, go into Twitter spaces, just get involved, because it'll come to you. What you seek is seeking you always. So
I wouldn't add anything to that. Like especially the last point. When we're saying the people, and it's like a cliche thing now. You surround yourself with, but listen, so the learning from people is something that it doesn't even need money. You just need to be open to learning. and go reach out to people. Cold turkey, reach out. And I know the biggest mistake people make, and if there's one thing that the young people can take away from this today, it's fine. Those big brands are good. You know, they are there, but those people are unreachable. There are these smaller nyana ones who are sitting there who are just as brilliant.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate those ones. Sitting in their own corner, sewing impahla zejoyini zezabomama baseziyoni. They're one of those ones. If they are asleep, those people are seasoned. Do not take them for granted. Go sit at their feet and learn from them. Right? So don't underestimate the you know, if there's one thing that the young guys, I can stress, there is learning across, there is learning in your life. Just open yourself up to learning and don't underestimate the unpopular one, the one who's not in the socials, the one who's not on TV. Those guys are just as brilliant. Pay attention to them, as my grandmother used to say. So I will close with that. We've taken so much of your time, but this was a very interesting first meeting and very insightful webinar, Shiluba. Thank you so much for joining. As I said when we started, we'll probably be reaching out to you for other interventions and see how we can, you know, partner in sharing information and doing whatever we can to support the industry. Right? Thank you so much. Sibongile, closing on your side.
I think for me, you've pointed out you know, a powerful thought today, that the greatest book that you've ever learned or you keep learning or reading, it's the people, because they teach you, I think, a lot of things that the books that don't even teach you. And maybe to sum up what Phumzile is saying to the younger generation, know that, you know, those who are up there started somewhere as well. So do start somewhere and do not look down on those that are there in their corners, as Phumzile says, because they may help you. They may be your ladders to actually get there to, you know, the bigger person or the bigger brand that you want to be. So on that note, I think Matsidiso it closes very well to say a powerful points raised indeed. So she said, thank you, I really enjoyed this session. And Usakele says, thank you for this session. It was quite educational for me. So we thank you to our audience. Thank you very much. We value your comments, and trust me, there would be a masterclass on fashion. I know, I can see Phumzile's mind. She's even designed it, even the outline. And Shiluba, you will be the one who gives a masterclass on the fashion textile retail industry. And so Lee says, thank you to everyone. And we cannot just go without thanking our technician who's always making it very possible for us. Maji, Dr. Prue, thank you so much. Phumzile, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a wrap. We will see you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, Shiluba.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.